Good morning, everyone. Welcome to ECC's virtual presentation of Financial Aid 101, How to Pay for College at ECC. My name is Joyce Proctor, and I'm the bursar at Elgin Community College, overseeing the Student Accounts Office. You'll also meet Mary Crow, Director of Financial Aid and Scholarships. We're happy you're joining us this morning. As we go through the presentation, please put your questions in the Q&A section. We will address the questions at the end of this presentation, which should take about 45 minutes. This presentation is being recorded and will be emailed to attendees later. We will be providing our contact information at the end of the presentation. If you think of a question after the presentation, please feel free to contact us directly. Please note that the information being provided in this session is based on the academic year 21-22 and is subject to change for later academic years. Any changes will most likely take effect in summer of 2022. Let's get started. Here is our agenda for today. The first portion of our presentation will have information that many students and parents want to know about navigating the payment process here at ECC. This information may be similar to other colleges, but we always recommend checking with other colleges if you are planning to transfer later. The second portion of the presentation will be an overview of financial aid and scholarships. Mary will provide information on how you can connect with a financial aid advisor directly after the presentation if you have specific questions. Next. In part one, these are the topics we will touch on briefly. There is a lot of information here, but I've provided the smart link on most slides so you can easily access it later on elgin.edu. Remember, we will email this presentation to you, so don't worry about taking notes. The first thing you need to know is if you are in our district. Here is the link you can use to put in your address and make sure you will receive in-district rates. Tuition rates are charged based on residency. You can go to the tuition webpage to see current rates. As a reminder, this information is for 21-22. If tuition rates change, they will most likely be effective for a summer term. At ECC, the summer term leads the academic year. If you are out of ECC's district, there may be a way for you to attend at in-district rates. Visit the Joint Agreements webpage for more information. There are other costs to consider besides tuition. Visit the fees page to learn more about fees. ECC owns their bookstore. Here are the top 10 reasons to shop at ECC's bookstore. Visit the bookstore webpage for more information. Make sure you pay your tuition on time. Visit the calendar webpage to find out when payments are due. ECC has a payment due date each term that is about 2 weeks prior to the start of a term. ECC offers affordable payment plans to break your tuition into smaller payments. Visit the payment plan webpage to get details on the plans available. Before you enroll for classes, make sure you read the refund policy. The refund is calculated based on the date of formal withdrawal. Visit the refund page for more information. You should never stop attending a class without formally withdrawing first. Before you withdraw from a class, make sure to check with the financial aid office to see how that might impact your financial aid. Because students make frequent schedule changes, we do not process refunds until the 3rd week of a term. If your schedule is final and you have a refund from a dropped class on your account, you can contact Student Accounts to process your refund sooner. Refunds process back to the original payment method. Sign up for direct deposit if you paid with cash or check. You will get your refund faster. Check your student email, ECC student email frequently. It's how ECC communicates with students. You may view your statement at any time via the Access ECC portal. ECC does not mail statements. Parents, please know that ECC complies with FERPA, which is a federal privacy law. ECC posts financial aid to students' accounts around the 6th week of a term. If your financial aid file is complete by the financial aid priority date, you will not be required to make a payment on the payment due date. You will find the financial aid priority date listed on the calendar webpage. If you are borrowing a loan, check with your financial aid advisor to see how your loan will post. You may have financial aid excess left after your grant or loan covers tuition. These funds will be refunded to you on the date listed on the calendar. Please sign up for direct deposit as soon as you can. Did you know that ECC is required to send uncashed checks back to the Department of Education? You would be surprised to learn how many students do not cash their checks or respond to us when we contact them about it. Don't let this happen to you. Direct deposit ensures you will receive your funds. The next 2 slides cover College Illinois and other 529 plans. Students using College Illinois need to bring their current benefit statement to student accounts and sign an authorization to bill form. We will ask the student if they want ECC to bill the fee term. Many students elect to save their fee terms for their transfer university. ECC's fee term is only $6, which is the enrollment fee. University fee terms are typically much higher. Lab and course fees are not covered by College Illinois. If you need to request funds from another 529 plan, please allow 2 weeks before the tuition payment due date. ECC must receive your payment by the published payment due date. Do you have a question and are not sure which office to call? This slide provides information on what each office handles. As promised in the beginning of our presentation today, here is the contact information for both offices. This information can also be found at elgin.edu. Do you or someone you know want to learn more about financial matters? Take ECC's free online financial literacy course. This course is open to anyone, even if they are not a student. Now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Mary Crow. Mary will talk about financial aid and scholarships. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Crow, and I'm the Director of Financial Aid and Scholarships at Elgin Community College. It's a pleasure to be here with you today to discuss the financial aid process and how to apply and receive financial aid at ECC. At the end of the presentation, we will answer any questions you have submitted. So let's get started. So first of all, what is financial aid? Financial aid consists of all the funds provided to students and families to help pay for college educational expenses. This includes tuition, fees, books, room and board, transportation, and miscellaneous expenses. So even though most of our students live at home with their families and might not pay rent, we still need to consider these costs since many of our students are adults returning to college who might need help paying their housing and living expenses. What are the different types of financial aid? So now that we know what financial aid is, the next thing to understand are the different types of financial aid available to help you pay your expenses at ECC. The first type of financial aid that we will discuss are grants. Grants are funds provided to students from the federal and state government, as well as institutions, that are used to pay for college expenses. We will discuss the 3 specific grants that students might be eligible to receive at ECC. Eligibility for these grants is determined by the information you provide to the Department of Education on the free application for federal student aid, known as the FAFSA. And we will be discussing how you apply for the FAFSA later. So first of all, federal grants, federal Pell Grants. The federal Pell Grant is offered to ECC students based on the information you provided on the FAFSA. The Pell Grant is awarded for the entire year, and some students are eligible to receive this grant to cover the cost of one class or up to full-time, which is 12 or more credit hours. The amount that a student receives depends on their eligibility, and it can change from year to year, depending on the family income, assets, etc., and the number of credit hours that a student takes in a semester. So for example, if you're eligible to receive a Pell Grant and during the fall semester you take 6 credit hours, again, that's considered part-time and is usually 2 classes. But then in the spring semester you take 12 credit hours, that again is full-time, which is usually 3 to 4 classes. The amount of your Pell Grant that you receive will be less during the fall semester than the spring semester, since the costs will also be less. Students may also be eligible to receive the Pell Grant for summer semesters. The second grant that an ECC student might receive is the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, known as FSEOG. The federal government provides ECC with a set amount of FSEOG grant funds that we distribute to our neediest students on a first-come, first-served basis. The need of students is determined once again on their FAFSA, and these students are currently awarded $250 for the fall and spring semesters only. Summer is not included. Once the total funds allocated to ECC have been awarded, no additional students will receive the funds unless additional funds become available later. So if a student does not come in the spring semester, that might open up some funds for a new student. So again, it's important to complete your FAFSA as early as possible so that you don't miss out on this or other grants and scholarships. And the third grant that you might be eligible to receive at ECC is the Illinois Monetary Award Program, called MAP. Again, this state grant eligibility is determined by the FAFSA. Eligible students are awarded up to 15 credit hours for the fall and spring semesters only. Again, state funds are limited, and the state of Illinois informs ECC when we must suspend further awarding of these funds based on the number of eligible students who have submitted their FAFSA. It's unfortunate that eligible students are unable to receive the Illinois MAP grant if they submit their FAFSA after the suspense date. So once again, we strongly encourage students to submit their FAFSA as early as possible so they don't miss out on this important grant. The second type of financial aid is student loans. ECC students who are eligible for some or all of the grants we just discussed may also be eligible to receive a federal Stafford loan. Students who are not eligible for any of the grants might still be eligible to receive a Stafford loan. Again, eligibility is determined by completing the FAFSA each year and the total amount that a student has taken out in the past. However, just because a student is eligible to receive a Stafford loan does not mean they must do so. We strongly discourage students to not take out any student loans if they have enough grant or scholarship funds or their own savings to pay for their ECC college expenses. To qualify for a Stafford loan, ECC students must be enrolled in a minimum of 6 credit hours for each semester that they receive the loan. ECC students interested in taking out a student loan must first complete the FAFSA process. Once they have completed the process, they will either receive an award notification to their student email informing them that they have been awarded grant funds, or they will receive a letter in the mail notifying them that they are not eligible for any grant funds, but they can contact the ECC Financial Aid Office if they would like to apply for a student loan, for scholarship information, or student employment. Students can call or email the office and schedule a loan meeting once they have registered for at least 6 credit hours. They will be given a financial aid advisor's name and email address so that they can contact them directly and schedule a loan meeting at a convenient time. Annual loan meetings are required of all students who are taking out a student loan. Loan meetings are available with an advisor in person during office hours or by phone or email. Once the meeting is scheduled, the advisor will provide the student with the necessary forms to complete and bring to the loan meeting. The advisor and student will review the student's current grants and scholarships, their total charges, and how much funding, if any, the student needs to pay off their charges. The student will then confirm how much of a student loan they wish to take out. The advisor will then explain how a Stafford loan works, what the interest rate is, and how repayment of the student loan works. They will also explain the consequences of students defaulting on a student loan. The loan will be awarded and the funds will be used to pay off any charges approximately 1 month after school begins. If there are any funds remaining, the student will receive them near the end of the semester. There are also Parent Plus loans and other private loans that students and their parents can consider. ECC would only be involved in processing these loans. If you have questions about how these loans work, check with an ECC financial aid advisor and they can forward you to the right individuals. The next type of financial aid is scholarships. ECC and private scholarships are available to students. Scholarships are typically available to students based on need, again, usually determined by the FAFSA, or by merit, which means the student has done something to earn the scholarship. Examples of an ECC merit scholarship include academic and athletic scholarships, which we will go over later in the program. In addition to applying for all ECC scholarships, high school students are encouraged to work with their high school guidance counselors to identify and apply for any local scholarships that they might be eligible to receive. Other scholarships ECC students have received are from local government, businesses, and other organizations. To apply for an ECC scholarship, a student would complete the application either online or a paper version if available. They might also be required to write an essay or answer additional questions, provide a letter of recommendation from someone who feels they are deserving of a scholarship, and sometimes they're also required to provide samples of their work. For example, a student applying for an art scholarship may have to provide some of their work, or an audition, and in this case, a music or a dance student scholarship, they might have to audition. Some scholarships also require students to interview with a committee who will select the scholarship recipients. It is important that you provide all of the required application materials before the deadline in order to be considered for a scholarship. Some ECC scholarships require that a student who accepts the scholarship participate in activities. For example, an athletic scholarship student would have to attend practices and games in order to receive that scholarship. Make certain that you understand what is required to maintain the scholarship and only apply for those that you are willing to meet in the maintenance agreements. It's also important to know if you need to reapply for each year for an ECC scholarship. Students may receive more than one ECC scholarship. And the final type of ECC financial aid is student employment. It is recommended that students apply for the FAFSA in order to see if they are eligible for most campus jobs. All ECC student jobs are posted on the ECC Jobs webpage. Students are encouraged to apply for all jobs that they are qualified for or interested in. We will discuss the process in further detail later in the presentation. Okay, so I've already mentioned that the first place for an ECC student to apply for financial aid is by completing the FAFSA. The new 2022-2023 FAFSA became available online on October 1st, 2021. If you are planning on attending ECC in the summer or fall of 2022 through spring of 2023, you should complete the 2022-2023 online application at studentaid.gov. Please note, if you would like to attend ECC in January 2022, you can still apply for the 2021-2022 FAFSA on the same website. If you have never completed a FAFSA, you will first need to set up a FSA ID at studentaid.gov. You will use this to sign your FAFSA electronically, and you will continue using the same FSA ID each year that you apply for financial aid. If you are under 24 years of age, you will also need to have one parent set up a FSA ID, since they will be required to complete the parent portion of the FAFSA. There are a few exceptions to this rule, such as if a student is married, so check with the financial aid office if you have any questions. The 2022-2023 FAFSA will require the student and parent to use their 2020 federal income tax information when completing the application. If you did not need to file taxes, but you did work, you should use your 2020 W-2 information when completing the application. The FAFSA gives you the option to transfer your federal tax information using the IRS data retrieval tool. We strongly recommend that you do so because it transfers your federal tax data directly from the IRS to your online FAFSA, which reduces the possibility of incorrect information on your FAFSA. You will also be asked what schools you wish to have your FAFSA information sent to. And you can list up to 10 schools on the FAFSA. You should enter the ECC school code 001675, and our school name will pop up. Follow the directions to make sure that your information will be sent to our school. The Department of Education sends the information to the schools you have listed via the student's Social Security number. Make sure that you have entered the correct Social Security number on your FAFSA as well as on your ECC application in order to ensure that we receive your FAFSA. Please note that we do not begin processing students who have submitted their 2022-2023 FAFSA until early February 2023. And at that time, you will receive a written notice for additional documents that are required to complete your file and be awarded if you are eligible. The RISE Act. Some students are currently not eligible to apply for the FAFSA, including undocumented students and some transgender students. The state of Illinois has passed the RISE Act, which provides the opportunity for a student attending a college in Illinois who is ineligible to receive federal financial aid to apply and receive consideration for the Illinois MAP grant. The alternative application for Illinois financial aid is the application that these students can use to apply at the Illinois State Assistance Commission, known as ISAC, at isac.org. If the student is eligible to receive the Illinois MAP grant, ECC will be able to award them these funds. Students need to apply annually for this grant. So once you have applied and we receive your FAFSA or your RISE or your application, alternative application, we will then be requesting, or you will be requesting documents, and you'll also receive documents. So let's first talk about the documents you will receive after you complete the FAFSA or alternative application. Students will receive a student aid report known as SAR to the email they've listed on their FAFSA, confirming they have received your application. Once ECC receives that application and processes it, you will be sent an initial letter to the student email address, sending them, or excuse me, a letter to your home, informing the student of any additional documents that they need to complete before the file can be reviewed by a financial aid advisor. A second letter will be sent approximately 1 month later to any student who has not responded. Most required ECC forms can be found on our website or in our office. Students may also receive email and/or phone calls reminding them to complete these forms. The file will be ready for review by a financial aid advisor once all of the requested documents are in. Sometimes once an advisor reviews a student's file, they will need additional documents or forms. If so, they will send a letter to the student requesting the specific documents and/or forms. The student must submit the additional items before the advisor can determine the student's eligibility, and if eligible, award them financial aid. We will be happy to email or mail you any of the forms that are required. The advisor will award all eligible students, and students will be notified by their student email. If a student is not eligible for any grants, a letter will notify the student and encourage the student to contact the financial aid office for more information on student loans, scholarship, or student employment. If you have turned in all of the requested forms and documents, but you have not heard back from us regarding the status of your award, please feel free to contact the financial aid office for further information. So now let's review the documents that you will be required to submit that I've been discussing. One document that all students must complete is called the ECC Institutional Aid Application. You can submit this form with any other required forms to the financial aid office via email, by mail, or stop into our office. If you are applying for a student loan, first-time borrowers are required to complete an online program through the Department of Education, and all loan students must complete required financial aid forms. Your advisor will email you the required documents once you have scheduled your loan meeting. So now that you have an overview on the different types of financial aid, here are some additional tips to keep in mind as you apply for ECC financial aid. Please make sure you have the correct Social Security number on both your ECC application and your FAFSA. We will not receive your FAFSA from the Department of Education if it's incorrect at either location. Keep your address and phone number up to date at the ECC registration office. Students are frequently sent mail and receive phone calls to the number listed on their file, so they could be missing out on important information regarding their financial aid. Read all your ECC financial aid letters carefully. Check your student email frequently for additional correspondence from all ECC departments. File early so you don't miss out on federal, state, or state grants. Make sure you get all of your scholarship application materials in by the deadline so you will be considered for more scholarships. Follow up with the financial aid office or any other office if you have specific questions for them. Remember, we are here to assist you and we're ready to help you through the process. Next, if your financial aid situation has changed since the year you filed your taxes that are required for the FAFSA, please contact the financial aid office to discuss this issue after you receive your notice about your eligibility. So for example, if your parents have recently been divorced or they have lost their job and so your family's income is significantly less, your advisor might be able to look at additional documents that you provide to determine if you are now eligible for any grants. If you make a mistake on your FAFSA and need to make a correction, contact the financial aid office if you need assistance. Keep in mind, students must apply for FAFSA each year and many scholarships as well. Make sure you do so early and know the deadlines for any required forms or documents. Your financial aid can change every year depending on the information you provide on your FAFSA. And registration changes can affect your financial aid eligibility. So if you drop or add a class or are in need to do so after school begins, please check not only with the registration office, but the academic advisor, but also the financial aid office before you drop to see if that will make any changes to your financial aid. So now that we have a better understanding, let's talk about the ECC specific scholarships available to many of our students to apply. So first of all, we have several Board of Trustees scholarships. They include several types, including academic scholarships for students who have just graduated from high school, athletic scholarships, creative writing scholarships, and forensic scholarships, which are students who participate on our speech team. What are the requirements for the Board of Trustees scholarships? These vary, so let's go through them individually. The Board of Trustee academic scholarships are for all recent high school graduates. They are welcome to apply for this scholarship if they graduated in the top 10 or top 20% of their high school graduating class. The scholarship is available for 2 consecutive years, fall and spring semesters only, and the top 10 students are eligible for $1,000 per semester, and the top 20 students are eligible for $500 per semester. Students must fill out the application, write a brief essay, and submit their final high school transcript to determine their eligibility. Students must graduate from an in-district high school to qualify. In addition, students must be enrolled full-time to receive the scholarship and maintain a cumulative 3.0 GPA. The student must also participate in any required activities. Students do not need to reapply for the scholarship each year. Next are ECC athletic scholarships. Students offered an athletic scholarship may receive a full-time scholarship of up to 15 credit hours of tuition or a part-time scholarship for 7.5 credit hours of tuition. Students must live in district a minimum of 30 days before the semester begins and have a cumulative 2.0 GPA. Students must submit the letter of intent and complete the online scholarship application, including a brief essay and 1 letter of recommendation. Eligible students may receive the athletic scholarship for up to 2 consecutive years, fall and spring semesters only. They must also participate in any required activities. Students do not need to reapply for the scholarship. Next are the ECC creative writing scholarships. Scholarships are available on a full-time and part-time basis for up to 2 consecutive years, fall and spring semesters only. Students must have a cumulative 2.0 GPA and remain in district for the duration of the scholarship. Students must complete an application, submit an essay, and all requirements that are outlined in the scholarship application. Students must participate in required scholarship activities. A FAFSA is required for this particular scholarship. Next are the ECC forensics scholarships. Again, this is the speech team. Students that are offered the forensic scholarships are available on a full-time and part-time basis for up to 2 consecutive years, fall and spring semesters only. Students must have a cumulative 2.0 GPA and remain in district for the duration of the scholarship. Students must complete an application, submit an essay, and requirements that are outlined in the scholarship application. Students must participate in required scholarship activities. And once again, the FAFSA is required for this scholarship. Next. ECC Foundation Scholarships. This is a different type of scholarship that ECC offers. There are over 250 different ECC Foundation scholarships are available that students apply for with one application. Some of these include the following categories: a general student scholarship, an academic scholarship. In this case, only students that have a 3.0 GPA would receive this particular scholarship. There are many career and education focused scholarships. For example, we have many health career scholarships for students. There are also special populations scholarships. Some examples would include scholarships for undocumented students or single parent scholarships. And we also have community service scholarships for students who are actively participating in their community. And what are the requirements? The ECC Foundation Scholarship requirements include students must complete an online application, including a brief essay and one letter of support. All students require a minimum of a cumulative scholarships require a minimum of a cumulative 2.0 GPA, and some scholarships have additional requirements to receive them. Some scholarships require students to have completed a FAFSA, but many do not. Foundation scholarships are awarded on an annual basis for the fall and spring semester only. Students must reapply annually and are not guaranteed to receive the same scholarship, but could potentially receive others. Students may receive more than one foundation scholarship, and they can also apply and receive a Board of Trustees scholarship, as well as any of the federal and state grants that we discussed earlier. Next is how to get a student job on campus. We strongly encourage students who are interested in getting a student job on campus to apply. The jobs are typically, are very flexible hours to work around a student's school schedule. Students can work up to 20 hours per week in the fall and spring, 25 hours in the summer, and they receive whatever the state minimum wage currently is. It currently is $11 per hour. To apply, a student must be enrolled in at least 6 credit hours for fall and spring, 3 credit hours in the summer, or they must be returning in the fall semester to work in the summer. A student must have and maintain a cumulative 2.0 GPA. Most jobs require a student to have completed a FAFSA and be eligible for the federal work study program. However, we do have some institutional work study programs and jobs available to students who do not qualify. Student jobs are posted on the ECC Jobs webpage, and all students are encouraged to apply for all jobs they are interested in. If you have any questions regarding financial aid and scholarships, please feel free to contact our office at 847-214-7360. If you have any questions for the Student Accounts Office, once again, please contact them at 847-214-7380. This concludes our formal presentation today, and I would like to personally thank you for attending and hope you found this webinar informative and helpful. If you have any specific questions regarding how to answer questions on your FAFSA and you wish to speak to a financial aid advisor, they are standing by. We will be posting the link in the chat now so that you can connect with a personal consultant. If you have put a question in the chat, we will be answering them at this time.